All right, welcome, folks. Today we're talking about a mobile app called Urso, and I think this is an interesting one. So I want to dive into it. It is a mobile game that takes care of your mental health. I think it's really interesting. Here I have my iPhone mirrored. I'm trying to do more demos. So this is what the app looks like. And basically, the way I'm describing it right now is as if Candy Crush and Headspace had a baby. And there's some aspects of this I really like. As someone who's very distractible and has struggled to use Headspace consistently, I like the idea of adding in these kind of gamification elements. It's kind of a lot. I'm not a huge fan of it altogether, but I think this is an interesting approach. I think mindfulness is really helpful. I've gotten a lot out of it when I've done it, and I think it's worth giving a shot. So I'm trying it out. I've tried it once. I don't fully understand the mechanics here. There's this like bear in space. I'm not really all in on the story, but I actually really like the animation in this game. They've done a really good job with the mechanics, and it looks pretty decent. It's kind of flashy for a meditation app. Here's like the pro upsell, which I don't know that I love. I don't. It feels weird, this mechanic of like upgrading and buying things in a game for meditation. So like I could buy a better outfit or a different island or a new body, I guess, which is kind of interesting. So I don't love that. I don't know. I think it's a good idea to try gamifying it. I don't know if this is the approach. I think what I would love to see is less Candy Crush and Headspace together and more like Duolingo and Headspace get together, right? I want to see that game baby. And so I don't know, interesting take. They have, I think, taken a swing at something, and I like when people do that. So if you're here just for the demo, that is the end of the demo. I guess, well, let me show real quick what this might look like. So yeah, here's kind of just a quick run through. It's very like at this point in the app, you're in a very similar place as Headspace, right? All that, Candy Crush goes away and we're into like a meditation app. So and it works pretty well as a meditation app. But I don't know about all this extra stuff. I'm really curious to see their user engagement. I would love to see some stats and see how well this is pulled off. But you know, I like a bold take. This is a bold take. Yeah, that is the app review. So if that's all you're here for, I will. You can stop watching here. I'm going to kind of dive into the business and some of the branding here and just look at some comparisons, and we'll go from there. So, also give me feedback on how well this movie recording works here. This is a little trick I learned. So, all right, let's dive in though to the product hunt side of it. So, Urso, mobile game to take care of your mental health, right? It did really well on Product Hunt. I'm impressed. I think so. This is 2023, so it's about almost a year ago now. They did a great job running this. And what I think is most interesting, I'm going to jump to first, is as I was digging into this, right, I actually found out the company behind it is called Practico. They are actually working on a different mobile app to reduce stress, improve sleep, right? Blah, blah, blah. It is, I love this. Basically, what they did is they took this mindfulness app and took all the content from it and put another layer on it. I love it. I love the idea. They're getting a couple like swings at bat for the price of one. I think that's a great idea. I'm a really big fan of this. I think it's really interesting. So this is like their kind of white label one. And, of course, then this is like the experiment they're trying. I think there's a lot to do here. I think that really, again, going back to Duolingo, I think they could start to incorporate AI in really interesting ways to really nail this gamification down. I doubt that's happening, but I think that's a cool kind of potential. But digging into the company itself, Practico, based in Charlotte, which is surprising. That's kind of interesting. I mean, good for them. Love to see a small little, I guess not that small of a city anymore, taking on some folks. That's really small. They've had a corporate round. I'm not 100% sure what that means. Okay, so they did a funding round. Okay, all right. So they had a lead investment. I think corporate round here probably means like a seed investment from maybe some type of accelerator, or maybe this is a spin-off. I'm not 100% sure. But here's kind of the news break. So they invest in a mobile app. This is interesting. So, okay. Yeah, this is like a corporate investment. I see. I understand now. And I think this is really smart. I think it's a really interesting idea. I don't think they nailed it with Urso, but I think they've got kind of good bones here, and they should keep trying on front ends and get it to be more Duolingo-like. So that's really an interesting take. So we have no idea about how much this funding app was. Yeah, I have no idea. But, fun to see another entrant in the space. I don't think it's going to take on Headspace anytime soon, but if I were Headspace, I'd be starting to think about building in more gamification. So interesting. And then here's just some of the apps that came up. One, really interesting, this Urso name. I just use Exa.ai, which is like a similarity AI. It'll find similar URLs and stuff. This Urso name, I think, is a decent bit of branding. Um, it came up with some interesting brands. This was a cool one. This is a smart clock. I include it here because I think it's in that mindfulness meditation range, like a very different play on it. And I'm actually really intrigued by the idea. I really liked Spotify's Car Player. I thought that was a brilliant kind of niche branding kind of opportunity. I think a smart clock is a really interesting one as well because, and I'm curious if Bose or someone would do this. It's basically a smart speaker with a screen on it, right? And I think that's a really interesting play. I think Alexa or HomePod could start playing more of this role. I'm actually going to make a little prediction, which is that I think that's where those kind of devices are going to head. Now, I will say an iPad is kind of like this. And this standby mode that Apple's working on, honestly, now I really want to try that out with the iPad because I think that might be the form factor more than the phone. I don't know. It popped up Furbo, which really it's just going by name. But this one's kind of interesting. I don't know. I just like fun products. I'll probably review this one at some point. I don't have a pet, but maybe I'll have someone else try it. I just thought the name was so similar. And that, maybe Urso is not the best brand name actually, because these are what's coming up. Trifo. Now it's really a pet theme here, which I think is super interesting. These kind of short, punchy names. These are probably all VC-backed companies. Now, this one is really interesting. Undesk is a virtual desk for max productivity. Okay, on the surface, doesn't seem to be super similar, but I actually think this is kind of like work mindfulness, and I love this. Okay, so I almost want to see more apps like Headspace and them use the screen time to really make more kind of opinionated kind of thoughts about your usage of apps and maybe start to do a weekly reflection. I think that's something when you think about gamification, that screen time, I don't know if there's an API for it on the Apple side, but that would be really fun. Um, Tribe is, I see like the vaguely kind of mental health association here. I think it's employee engagement. Not a huge fan of these platforms, actually. I think these are kind of scary, especially when I see calories on there. Like that's kind of the datafication of everything, and that spooks me. Now, this one I think is really smart. So this is Debrief. This is built into Slack. One, I like that it's niched down. Two, I think it really helps out in terms of mindfulness. And again, going back to Urso, I think the more you can kind of build in like check-ins, whether it be with screen time, whether it be, with actually breathing or meditation or using your Apple Health data, like if your heart rate peaks, you can pull it in. This is really smart since it's in Slack where a lot of people are and work, but really you want to create touch points and be where people are. I think it's really hard if you're trying to build like a flywheel to kind of build it into your app. You want to be connected to some other touch point. This is really smart. So big fan. I'd be curious what Urso could do for that. I think Duolingo has done a great job of making their app a destination. Really freaking hard. Real estate space on a phone is tough. This one I just thought was fun. I think it's interesting that it pulled it up as something similar. I'm going to do a review on this one at some point, not super close. Worry Dolls. This one just felt so weird and I wanted to talk about it because, right, it's very similar where it's like a very mindfulness focused app in a totally different form factor with kind of strange like drawing, strange animation. This is much more text focused. I really would be curious if this works. Maybe I'll try it out. I thought that was fun. So, in short, kind of my thoughts here from the business side is maybe the name is not super well positioned, but I love the fact that they're using this base app Practico and all the content that comes with that and putting different front ends on it to see. I think they should really lean into the Duolingo and try to figure out how to tap into screen time and Apple Health, those APIs to see if they could create some hooks for interaction so people can remember to check it out. So thank you so much. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I really want to know in the comments what meditation apps you've gotten a lot out of.